Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Guys, and Purrs. My name's Leslie, and today we're going to talk about episode 2 of season 2 of Interview with the Vampire. Do you know what it means to be loved by death? Um, Putting this together is really just a way for me to organize my thoughts because I love the entire episode. Um, and it was chock full of just moment after moment, something was going on. Uh, so top 5 moments is in no particular order, and I'd have to say the first moment that comes to mind is Santiago, because Santiago is the moment, okay? It's not just about the theater, it's Santiago's show. He is the lead. Ben Daniels is an incredible Santiago. He's making the role all his own. There's something about the character of Santiago in the book, the first book, Interview the Vampire, and we don't yeah, and then we never come across the character again, um, which is that they had such a small part in the book, a short amount of time in the book, but they still stuck out to me, to the reader, um, and so even in the old, 90s version, movie that came out, the adaptation, I was still excited to see the character, just seeing the book come to life, and I felt so excited for this adaptation. Um, just being in the theater, I I know I thought it immediately, and there's plenty of other people that think the same thing, is that we instantly get the feel of like a Rocky Horror Picture Show environment. And the director knew exactly what to do when you have someone like Ben Daniels. You get ready, you have like the camera set up so that Ben Daniels could do his thing, and then they just find ways to um how do I call it? Slowly zoom in, just get closer and closer as Ben Daniel comes closer to the audience, right? The viewer, and gives us like monologue, which is not just to the audience in the theater, but also to us, the audience. And I thought, oh, I love when they do that. I feel like they did that not in the same way, but they did that thing where they're also having a conversation with the audience last season in season 1, and it was a conversation between Daniel Malloy and Louis about Claudia and how once you write in the show a person, but a character, and then once you release a book into the world, it's um, no longer the baby of the writer, or it's just like you let it out, and people are going to think whatever they want to think. And I feel like that was actually a conversation that they were having, but it was more for like the audience. Um, it was more for us, and I felt like this was a moment, and it's barely in episode 2, where Santiago is having a conversation with us as a viewer and what we are willing to entertain. And I just absolutely I love Santiago. Um, I definitely felt like he carries like this flirtation with the audience, this flirtation with Armand, and also, you could just kind of see that he has his ears perked up in a way, right? He knows that there's these 2 vampires. I'm sure they could sense them in the audience. And also, I'm sure like Armand probably tipped him off too as well. So they want to see what these 2 are about. Um, what are they up to? I'm sure they've been like stalking them and observing them. And so we see Santiago later on like interrogate in his own way Louis and Claudia, and he's really trying to get at who is their maker. But I also felt like at this point in the story, I read the book, but I can't tell how much he knows at this point or doesn't know. It just seems like everyone has a poker face on right now. And there's a narration, and I believe it was from Armand. There's like this banter between Louis and Armand as the narrators about, okay, this place was like weird, or the plays are weird, and Armand says something about like, well, this is all, I can't remember it word for word, but about this being a farce, and it was to lure the audience in to the real moment, which is the last play, right? And I felt like that was just I felt like that was meant to be symbolic for the journey that Louis and Claudia are going to be on, that they're being lured into like a false sense of security before the curtain is pulled open to reveal what's really going on. So that's what I felt like was going on in all of that. Santiago, sorry to bring it back to Santiago, was just absolutely incredible, so captivating. I'm so glad Ben Daniels played this role. But yeah, so to move along, in terms of like the curtain being pulled open, the second moment I want to bring up is the letter from Lestat through the attorney's office, right? Um, I've watched this episode about 5 times already, and I even decided to read the letter a couple of times. And so in the letter, it says, in the event that you are reading this, something dreadful has occurred, which is not my own death, but rather the fact that we both now exist in two different worlds. All right. So after I watched this a couple of times, this is what I'm wondering. And because I'm always torn over what's going to be pulled from the book and what's not. So I'm just in the dark in some ways as all the other viewers that haven't read the books. And that is, when this letter was written, what do you think? Do you think Lestat wrote this before everything went down in New Orleans? Do you think once he knew what Louis and Claudia did, he decided to write this letter knowing what they were potentially going to do to them? And this is just like another chess move from Lestat. I mean, it could be written before or it could have been written after, right? That's what I'm wondering. Because I feel like, this is such a devastating letter for Louis to read, but I also feel like the way that it's written, I think it's a way for Lestat to hurt Louis' feelings because he knows Louis so well. Because the next line is, do not waste your life seeking revenge on the person or persons who did this. Do not give them the satisfaction of the hunt. Let treachery eat away at them from within. And I feel like Louis hearing that, he's thinking like, oh no, but I was a person that did this. But I feel like Lestat knows that. So that's why he wrote that. Like, uh, it's almost uh, like you can do better without me type of thing, like of an ex. That's what I was thinking. I don't know. So yeah, I feel like the more that I read this, the more I feel like this is um Lestat being messy. And yeah, so then it goes, and you go carry on with your living. Know only this, mon cher, you are the only being I trust and whom I love above and beyond myself. All my love belongs to you. You are its keeper. A veil will now forever separate our union, but as a thin veil, and I'm always on the other side, face pressed up against your longing. And so I also feel like this is also incredibly romantic. But I wonder, because the way that Lestat is, this is just a way to say, like, when you're ready, I'm still here. We're just like not together right now. But also, I don't know. There's so much good that could be said about that. Um, I usually record this and have this ready for Saturday ahead of time. Like I try to like record so I have like my thoughts, just like my raw thoughts ready. But I didn't get that chance, so I'm putting this together kind of late, which means I've already listened to a whole bunch of other podcasts because I just consume all content regarding this television series. And the Vampire Insider, one of the hosts pointed something out. I'll put more info in the details because I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But one of the hosts pointed out that what me and like all the other viewers have noticed was this like how gorgeous Sam Reed's hair is in as Lestat in this moment. But one of the hosts pointed out that, well, actually, the way that Sam Reed's Lestat is made up in that moment seems to be a nod to the 90s version of Interview with the Vampire with the way that Louis was put together, played by Brad Pitt. And I thought, gosh darn, I wish I had noticed because that makes perfect sense. Because last season they definitely did some nods to the movie, and so I was like, gosh, I wish I would have noticed that. But that was just, yeah, I think that's right on the nose, and I thought it was incredible um, that one of the hosts noticed that. It was just like a gem of a moment. All right, moment number 3 is gonna be the pictures that Daniel Malloy is. I'm sorry, that Armand and Louis share with Daniel Malloy. Ugh, okay, sorry. Let me get situated, and I'm also gonna take a sip because get ready. I have a lot of thoughts about this. All right, so around like the 12th minute, 50th second, somewhere around there, Armand and Louis share photos with Daniel Malloy. And there's one of Claudia, there's one of the other vampires, and there's like a slew of other people. And a couple of them happen to be men. And so Armand and Louis tell Daniel that these photos are some of the men are like, you know, people that they had like a relationship with or whatnot. And some of them are like have moved on with their lives or in old age, and some of them are dead. Here's what I'm thinking. I think that at some point Daniel Malloy is going to find a photo of himself. Maybe not in that batch, because I don't think they're that careless, especially the way that Armand would cut out photos with like, it looks like with like an X-Acto knife or whatnot of from Claudia's diary. Um, I just feel like there's going to be a Polaroid somewhere and it's going to be of Daniel Malloy. Um, I also noticed that when Daniel has these photos and they're telling him these things, this clearly like bothers him. And that could be a couple of things. One, it could be, is there a memory scratching in the back of his mind that hasn't surfaced yet by holding this box of photos in his hand? Additionally, it's creepy, right? It's one thing to have photos of like Claudia or other people from that time, but they basically have photos of some of their victims. And you know what? That is very reminiscent of what Claudia did last season, which is she would keep body parts of her victims because she's basically a serial killer, right? They all are. And so I just find that very telling that they felt the need to hold on to those photos. And I feel like as they're talking about the people that have gone on with their lives or died or whatnot, I don't know. I just feel like they're telling us the audience that one of them was clearly Daniel Malloy. So that set off alarm bells for me. So I thought that was like a very important moment. I already forgot where I was at in terms of moments. So I went to Santiago, the letter, the pictures. I'm gonna stick with Daniel Malloy and say like uh the fourth moment is gonna be the scene where Daniel Malloy brings up the telenovelas. Okay, when when Daniel Malloy is in Dubai is informed that um Armand has a portrait, or the theater has a portrait of Lestat. And I love that Daniel Malloy says, I didn't see that coming. I should have seen that coming, right? Because what do we know about Lestat? He's French, and where has Louis brought up that he doesn't want to go? Paris. And so there's like so much mixed up in that moment. And I love that, someone like me that just became so engrossed with the books, um, that we have this like levity and humor to it through Daniel Malloy, and just kind of bursts their bubble like points out like, oh, you both knew this guy, you both knew the ex. Um, and I love that Armand says something like he tastes like vermouth and annihilation. It's like the most dramatic, petty comment about Lestat. And as the reader, we know what's really underneath that. Once you start protesting too much, you're really saying something else. And so I really felt that. And so I just love that scene. It's so humorous. And you know what? Daniel's someone that really captures like pop culture. So for this episode, it was the telenovelas. Last episode was a Shah Rukh Khan, which I was I should have brought that up as another moment, but that really got me. I was like so ecstatic. Um, and so yeah, there's a lot to chew on in Dubai. And the fifth moment I would like to talk about. There's more grander moments, I know it, but I have to go to this because I think it says a lot about what's going to go on for the rest of the season. Um, I have more questions than answers, and that is the adaptation of Madeline. So Claudia meets Madeline, and the character of Madeline in the books was a doll maker, and that fit that story in the books because Claudia is like 4 or 5 years old, something. She's like a toddler in the books, and so in the books, Claudia takes the doll to this doll maker, and the conversation goes from there. Um, and the character in the books also had a daughter that had died, I believe. And so for her, this sounds like an opportunity to have a child that will never die. Um, and so she's up for becoming a vampire. So in this adaptation, we see that Madeline is a dressmaker. Um, and here's the thing, and maybe you could help clear this up for me, because before Claudia goes into the shop, a gentleman tells her like, "Oh, don't go in there." And then I thought he did the hail rhymes with Schmittler because I don't want to say it. Um, and I was confused. Was did he? I thought because I've seen the trailer where Madeline throws. Did she throw something? She threw something at the window, but that's because some people had, they drew the infamous sign on the window. So I thought I I was under the impression that Madeline was Jewish, um, and I thought maybe that has to do with her character arc and what would drive her to become, to agree to become a vampire. But now I'm confused. Was the man warning Claudia because, um, maybe Madeline was like a sympathizer? Which I hope not. I just don't know. So that kind of threw me off. Either way, Claudia goes in, and I love this moment between Claudia and Madeline because it felt like a meet cute, but it felt like there was so much friction between them, much like the moment when Louis and Lestat first meet, because they meet, but there's this irritation and friction between the two of them, right? And in that moment between Lestat and Louis, it's it's that moment of like Louis admiring him, but disliking him, all the things. And so I felt like this moment mirrors that moment between Lestat and Louis. So I really loved it. I feel like there is this back and forth friction where Madeline actually like respected the person in front of her, Claudia, by the end of the scene that we see. And so, yeah, I really love that. And I feel like I wanted to also just include a moment with Claudia because the actress Delaney Hales, right, playing Claudia is doing an incredible job. I mean, I love her. Um, an honorable mention would be the mansion scene. Um, but I don't want to really get into that too much because I feel like so many other people are probably talking about that scene. Other than I did like, I will point out that I like that we're seeing them actually grab a victim because in the theater we see a victim already there, right? That knows that they're vampires. But now we see what they just go start ransacking people and massacring places. So I don't know. I found the whole thing very entertaining. Um, yeah. Again, more questions than answers. I love this episode. I can't wait for the next. And there's just so much to discuss. All right, everyone. If you like this segment, please subscribe, like, and comment below because I could just talk about this television series for as long as it's on, even after. I'm slowly re-listening to Queen of the Damned. I've read a big chunk of the books. I don't want to say all of them in the Vampire Chronicles, but like a big chunk of them I've already read, and I basically just want to like reread some of them on Audible just to have like to be able to carry on these conversations. Anyways, I'm just jibber jabbering. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in the comments.